Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Digital to Dice podcast. I am Dave.
I'm still Ron.
Still Ron. What were you before?
I'm not allowed to say.
This is episode 117 of the Digital to Dice podcast. We're wrapping up 2021 here at the end of the year.
Bye-bye, 2021.
Yeah, bye-bye. Exactly right. So we'll wrap up 2021. We're going to talk a lot of John Madden today.
Yeah.
In the early part of the show. Yeah. Big deal in the sports world, in the gaming world, Madden. We're going to talk a lot about that today. Ways to get a hold of us, digitaltodice.com is the website. That's where we park everything over on Spreaker. 978-751-DICE is the Dice line. 978-751-3423 if you want to send us a text. digitaltodice@yahoo.com is the email. And over on Facebook, facebook.com/groups/digitaltodice. And lastly, I wonder how many people bought a mouse pad over cafepress.com/digitaltodice. Get your Digital to Dice gear over there.
Can you count them on a finger?
I can. We haven't made enough. We haven't made enough to even get a check yet. So but it's more for you guys to grab a cup or a mouse pad or something like that over there with the podcast logo on there. And some people send us their pictures with that stuff they got, and it's been kind of fun. Cool. It's been kind of fun to see that. And as always, if you'd like to support the show, over at digitaltodice.com, over on Spreaker, there's ways you can support us with Venmo and PayPal, or just send us an email, digitaltodice@yahoo.com, if you'd like to help out to keep this thing going. Anyway, so yeah, why don't we jump right onto it? The other day, I was kind of shocked myself when I saw that pop up that Madden had passed away.
Yeah, I was taking a nap and I knew that they had just done the special on Fox, which I do want to see, on the life of John Madden, and all of a sudden there was rest in peace. And so he passed away unexpectedly at the age of 85 on Tuesday, as we tape this on Wednesday the 29th. And I just finished a baseball stream as my replay has started for the year, and most of that we're talking about John Madden. I can't think, maybe one singular person who has had an impact on their sport as much as John Madden. Maybe you could go with Vin Scully in baseball because he did it for so long. You might be able to say Dick Vitale, primarily for what his influence is in college basketball. He kind of got silly towards, with all the Duke stuff. But as far as putting it in there, as far as from his days as a linebacker coach with the Oakland Raiders in the early 60s, today, the video game is still coming out in his name. I mean, everybody knows the name. Yeah, John Madden.
I mean,
my wife was talking about turducken this morning when we were out having coffee.
How many people, though, can you say were a coach, then went into broadcasting, and then had a successful run of video games with their name on it since 92 or 91, whatever that come out?
The only one that I think it could close would be Earl Weaver, but I think people forget the fact that he was a broadcaster.
Yes, yeah, I didn't even know that. I mean, there really is. I mean, you think across the four major sports, I mean, I can't think of a bigger name. You got big broadcasters, you got big coaches, you got, maybe somebody else in the video game. But, I mean, just think it's Madden. Even NHL, it's called NHL. NBA is called, NBA Live or
NBA
2K.
They even took Tiger Woods' name off the golf game.
Yeah, MLB's the show.
Right.
But football is Madden. And
football is Madden.
Now there have been other games. There was. I think there was a primetime game and a few other single games.
There was an NFL 2K along with that as well. But as far as game, I mean, everyone who's listening to the show is going to have played a game of Madden at some point.
Yeah.
It's just from a gaming aspect, and the earlier versions were more simulation type thing. They were all arcade. I remember, I think I bought 94 or 95 for the Sega Genesis.
I still have a couple of those old ones there. I was going to pop one out and play one in his honor,
And Emmitt Smith for the Cowboys ran for over 300 yards one day for me. And I'm controlling it. I was like, oh, that's such a big deal. Emmitt Smith did that. So, yes, I mean, the influence of John Madden on how games are broadcast. I was watching a clip this morning of Super Bowl 23, and the Giants had the game in hand, and that was the year that the Gatorade, they started dousing Bill Parcells. And so the game's a blowout. In the middle of the Super Bowl, John Madden has his Jerry Remy moment. Remember, I know you don't watch a lot of baseball, but Sean McDonough or Don Orsillo and Jerry Remy would go off on these tangents when the game was out of hand, and you'd laugh. It kept you watching all those times. And so here we are at the end of a Super Bowl with super serious Pat Summerall, and Madden, there's 3 buckets, okay? And Madden goes, there's a father bucket, a mother bucket, and a baby bucket. And he pulls out the telestrator, M, F, and B. And again, CBS was always the more sober and serious broadcaster. And when they used to bring out the telestrator, it was a CBS Sports chalkboard. And on the upper left-hand side of the screen, it was the CBS Sports bucket chalkboard.
Yeah.
Bucket. And so, I mean, just he explained things in a way that people who weren't football fans could understand. It wasn't that he just had a name behind his video game, or probably one of the more underrated coaches in football history. He won 104 games as a head coach in the regular season.
When he did his broadcast, now I'm old enough to remember Pat Summerall and Tom Brookshire.
Yep, so am I.
Very early 70s, kind of stiff, but that's what it was. And then Madden came in, and it was almost like you were sitting there having a beer with your buddy that knew more about football than you did and was explaining it to you without talking down to you. And, when Madden would sit there, now watch this guy right here. Okay, I like that he did that, because it wasn't like, watch, Drew Pearson here, number 88. It's like, watch this guy right here. And it kind of didn't matter who it was. He was showing you the play in general. He wasn't so focused on the guy and how many catches. He's just like, watch this guy right here. He makes a move on the inside, and then, boom, hits the quarterback's arm, and it's incomplete. And that style of describing the play made more sense to me than, Too Tall Jones did a swim move on this guy who was trying to pull a hook move. I don't know all that lingo. Madden talked to me. Madden talked to me. Watch this guy right here. He makes the move, boom, and now Billy Joe Dupree gets in and sacks the quarterback, and that's how it's done. And it was brilliant how he took the stiffness and the X's and O's out of everything and just spelled it out for you like we were playing in the park. We were playing tag football in the park. And it's like, oh, I can relate to that. When they start playing Tampa 2, I don't know what the heck a Tampa 2 is. I don't know what a cover 2 is. I don't know what a cover 3 is. I just started to learn what the nickel is. I just watch casually. I'm not into the X's and O's and all the nitty gritty. And so when he just says, look at this guy here, watch him cover here, that's all I need to know. I don't need to know a Tampa 2. I don't need to know a Dallas 3. I just tell me what's going on. He did such a good job with that.
And for a long, long period of time, he was still pretty much at the top of his game when he retired. And he got to go out on his own terms. No one patted him on the shoulder and said, John, it's time for you to go. He worked well with Pat Summerall. He was great with Al Michaels.
Yeah.
The last couple of years that Summerall was on, Summerall wasn't very good. He was okay, but he wasn't Pat Summerall. And Madden carried him for a while. True story. The 81 season, CBS changed executive producers for their sports, and they had to pull Summerall away from Brookshire because they partied. And so both broadcasters would come a little toasted. That's their words. And so they were worried about people's health. So the first 4 weeks of the 81 season, they matched Madden with Vin Scully, which, I mean, as someone said today, Vin's a soloist. Vin could call football. He did a very good job calling football. But Vin's a storyteller. Trying to match Vin, who is, a writer on the air, with Madden trying to do that, they probably would have done a good job. And then they matched him with Summerall and made the decision for Summerall and Madden to be partners. I just can't imagine Madden being that successful with Scully. I mean, that pairing was just...
No, when he went with Summerall, it was just made to be. It really was. It was like boom, boom, there you go. And just Summerall brought his he didn't talk much. Rice, Montana, touchdown 49ers. I could still hear him saying that,
Right.
And then Madden would come in and describe what happened here, and it worked beautiful. It just worked. It really did. They did a good job with it. And
one of my favorite Summerall calls, it's either Dexter Klingsky or Everson Walls on a pick six. Must go, should go, will go. You knew exactly what that was as you see him running down the sideline. He's going to score. And then, as you said, Madden's the one that said, keep an eye on this. He reads the quarterback, goes over here, boom, makes it. Yeah. Makes him,
Yeah, it was a nice combination. And then, he get into the video games, and I remember reading on that how they showed him a game, and what was it? It's like 5-on-5 or 7-on-7.
7-on-7
and he's
is
like,
what they were talking
he's
about.
He's like, no. He goes, I'm not putting my name on this unless you can put all 11 guys on the field. And they're like, I don't know if we can because it's so much programming. And back in the late 80s, early 90s, that was a big deal, to doing that stuff.
Oh, you're talking about 8-bit computers.
Yeah.
And those systems were 8-bit machines, even the consoles. They just didn't have the memory.
Yeah. Now, there was a time in the 80s, I remember the Intellivision, Mattel Intellivision, if you remember that one.
Was that 11-on-11?
No, it wasn't. It was only like, I think it was 5, 6, or 7. 5, 6, or 7. It wasn't. I think you had a quarterback, a couple of receivers, and whatever. It wasn't that big. But anyway, I remember reading on that when they would program that, like the center and the nose tackle never moved. Okay.
Oh, really?
Yeah. When you hiked the ball, they stayed still. So they canceled each other out. And everybody else ran in unison. So when you see that the little Intellivision guys running, they said that they could only put so many moving parts on the screen at one time. So that's why it was almost like a cut and paste. So when the quarterback and the receiver ran and the defender ran, it was all the same guy, just cut and pasted, because they didn't have the technology to have individual parts moving.
You had to fit all of that logic into a RAM cartridge with 4 kilobytes of memory.
Yeah, so they were really limited to what they could do. So, go 10 years later, and then Madden comes in, and Madden's like, I want 11-on-11, and I want people to move around. And they're like, how are we going to do this? Because at the time, it was a difficult thing, and they pulled it off. And he pulled it off. He signed off on what he said. Okay, this is a good start, and he signed off on it. And now you got Madden 22 coming out. And I remember getting the Sega Genesis. I still have the first one here somewhere. I think it was 91 or 92. And that was one of the big things.
Madden football.
That was one of the big things that launched the Sega Genesis was the Madden football. That was one of the big things that kicked it off. And it's a tough game to play. I'm not going to lie. I've played it a few times. And
they're also difficult now.
They didn't age well, that first game. But back in the day, I remember, I think it was Madden 92 I was playing. And, of course, I played Tampa Bay. And I got into the Super Bowl. And I'm in the Super Bowl against Houston. And you couldn't kneel back then, I don't think. And I was running out the clock. And I only had to run a couple of plays, and I would have won a Super Bowl. And I ran a sweep. I think I've told the story on the show before. I ran a sweep, and Houston made me my running back fumble, and they ran it in for a touchdown. And I remember shutting off the game. It's like, nope. I played all season and all playoffs, because back then you couldn't really save and go back. You just had to keep playing. So it's like if they – so I killed the game before it saved, and I went back in. When I fired it up, I got to play the Super Bowl over again, and then I played and I won it this time. But I was like, what a scripted play that was. It really was. I was like, yep, you saw that coming a mile away. No matter what I did, they were going to take the ball from me and score. 1 in a million play. So, but I had a lot of fun with the Madden games back in the day, and until recently, too, when it just became so complex that I just couldn't play it anymore. So many different,
became professional and
so many different buttons to hit. But I mean, it's still a gorgeous game. They still carry the name on there. I don't know how long they'll carry the name, but yeah. So it was kind of sad to see. But yeah, like I said, when you try to think, is there anybody bigger name in football than Madden? I mean, again, he coached, he broadcasted, he had the video game, and all three of those things were huge. And he was a big name in all of them. And I can't think of anybody in any sport right now that you can say, that's a Madden equivalent. I just can't.
No. I again, Scully, because he was so long and because of his love of the game, and it came through.
But I mean,
he wasn't really a national figure for all that long.
Yeah, he did some. I know who he was, obviously, and I've seen him do some things. But yeah, you don't. I mean, you could say, well, there's him, and then there's a couple other guys. But I mean, no one with the longevity that Madden had, doing so many things. Going from the field to the booth to the video game thing.
People forget how good of a coach he was. He won 104 games in his career. A winning percentage is 739. And someone in my chat earlier during the ball game said that even the 2 years that they missed the playoffs, that the best record both years of teams that missed the playoffs, and his record for those teams were 17, 11, and 2. So he made 6 AFC championship games. There's only 1 year that he went 1 and out, and that was the Immaculate Reception in 72. And he retired, Dave, at 42 years old. He just didn't like to fly. And he always said he wouldn't coach anybody but the Raiders. And yeah, the Raiders won a Super Bowl after him with Tom Flores, like Marcus Allen over the Redskins. But as far as, he just was absolutely, and the games that he coached, the sea of hands, their miracle victory against Miami in the last play of regulation, and goes to the post, which beat Baltimore 1 year, and about 20 minutes later, plane crashes into Memorial Stadium. The Holy Roller, which we've all heard Bill King's call of Madden's out on the field. Nothing is real anymore. He said, did that happen? Yes, get your big butt off the field. We've all heard that 1,000 times, and those were, we know what kind of a broadcast. Here's John Madden's impact. I posted this last night on Facebook when I thought, and the first two people who responded to me were women who were not football fans. And that he spoke to them, just like you said, he could talk on a level that interested them. People who, okay, that's very nice that the Patriots won or the Giants won or whatever, but let's talk about real life. They're the ones that, got something out of John Madden. And the books were pretty funny. 1 knee equals 2 feet. I remember reading that as a kid. So, he, as far as an ambassador for that sport, or for sports, Madden is pretty much on an island all to himself. I just can't think of. You could talk about Vince Lombardi's impact. They named the Super Bowl trophy after him. You got to be of a certain age to even know who Pete Rozelle is. And Rozelle's impact on the NFL was huge. Well,
here we are, 2021, on the verge of 2022, and we're talking about somebody who's been impacting the game since the early to mid 70s, right?
Oh no, early 60s.
Well, as far as coming up to a point where you knew who he was, okay?
He was, his first year was last year, the AFL, 1969.
Yeah, so but realistically talking, he started the game. His name,
years.
His name, right around the time I was born. Yeah, so it really stinks when someone like that, it's a big icon like that, goes and in the whole.
And again, I think that for people who play games, sports games, you're right. There were some decent sports titles. We talked about the Tecmo Bowl, but I don't think anyone really thought that was professional football. There are people who, you were one of those ones. Wasn't Madden your first real big sports game, or Blades of Hockey or something like that?
Oh, Blades of Steel. My big one was the NHL on the Sega Genesis, the NHL 92, 93, 94. NHL 94 is the most famous one, obviously. But there was Madden games coming out the entire time.
Right.
On the Sega Genesis, and all the way up through the, then they went to the PS1, the PS2. But, there's kids nowadays that are playing Madden that probably don't even know that he coached or he broadcasted. It was just, they know Madden, they know the name. And if you ask them, what do you know about Madden? Probably not much. They might not know. They might think he was a coach or a broadcaster. They might not have thought that he did both,
His last game was in 2005, I think it was. 2005. Been a long time. Been a long time.
Yeah, and him and Summerall did the Patriots for a Super Bowl there,
Yeah, I believe his last game was Pittsburgh, Arizona. It's the first Super Bowl back on NBC when they got football back.
Yeah, I don't remember that one.
Anyway, so yeah, and you know, we've talked about this before. You're the one that played sports video games and then graduated from digital to dice. And so it was your introduction. I mean, I know we talked about the hockey, but the football, able to play as your favorite teams. And that one of the reasons why the console games, outside the fact that they became too complex to play, was that you got tired of playing the modern teams, and that's was your gateway, because you knew about the sports sims to actually start playing these games. And I'm sure you're not the only one who made that transition.
Yeah. Again, my first one was the Football Mogul, and I was like, oh, I can play. And the first thing I did is I took the I think it was the 76 Patriots, and for fun, because I'd never done this before, I started to play the 76 Patriots, and then I went back and I was like, I'm going to trade Grogan and Stabler and see how, and because you could do that in that game. And I was like, wow, I can play 70s Patriots and I could trade guys. It was unheard of to me. It really was. It was unheard of. And so Football Mogul, that was my gateway into where I am now.
So yeah, but the gateway to get you at least that far was playing the console games and Madden being the leader in that.
Yep, I remember playing the Atari. And the Intellivision football was just generic teams. It was just like red and blue.
Oh, yeah,
that's all it was. And then finally, when the Nintendo came along, I think they had cities in the Nintendo. It still was.
I think was the first NFL licensed. No, well, NFL football for Intellivision, but they didn't have any names. But as far as logos, I think Tecmo was the first one to do that. But again, I mean, just his impact and he lived and ate and breathed football. And so
the whole Thanksgiving with the turkey legs, and
so just a monumental impact on the way that a lot of us not only watched the sport growing up, but learned to play the sport. And we're talking about, by ourselves, as far as consoles, and then consoles to football gaming and such. So
it's a big loss, a big name, probably the biggest name in football, at least in the last 40 years. And who knows? In 40 years, it might be somebody else. But for right now, that's the one everybody knows.
Who's kind of in the ballpark as far as a broadcaster is concerned? He should be getting, and I'm talking Tony Romo either. Who's really good and should be on somebody's number one package? Kurt Warner.
I've been hearing him on the radio, because he does the radio a lot, right?
Right.
Yeah, so I'll hear him, especially I think it's Monday nights or something like that, when I'm at the rink and I put the headphones on. He's on there. I think he does a decent job. I think he was
a better than expected quarterback. He did all those good years with Arizona after, if you thought that he was a system quarterback with the Rams, which I thought he was. Okay, let's see you do it without Mike Martz. Oh, okay, yeah, you did. Congratulations. And I'm not sure in this day and age, when everything is so specialized and so split, if anyone can, how many people can have that impact? But Warner kind of
he's got a
people.
Like I said, when I listen to him on the radio, he's got a good voice. It's soothing. You can understand what he's saying. You can visualize what he's saying. Yeah, I do like listening to him now. When he first started out, I wasn't too keen on him, but he's settled in. I think he's doing a pretty good job.
Yep.
So anyway, all righty. So that wraps it up. R.I.P. John Madden. Thank you for everything you've done for sports and football and sports gaming and the whole bit. So, all righty. Let's get into the topic at hand, shall we?
Yes.
All righty. So many things to get into today. I first want to thank a couple of guys on Facebook that have been helping me out. I decided that I was going to try to not design, but rate my own Hockey Blast season or teams. And I bought the how-to guide quite a while ago, and I remember reading it and lost. I can't figure it out.
What are you trying to rate? Worcester?
Eventually I will, but I'm going to start with an NHL season that I know. So I went back and I looked at all the seasons that they had rated and all the home brews, and so I think I settled on 71-72 NHL. I said that's another Bruins Cup win, not too many teams to rate. So I said I'll try that, right? So I sat down again with the instructions, And I got a couple of steps in, and then from there I was really kind of lost. So I ended up I posted up on the Play community on Facebook and said, would somebody be willing to help me out with this, because I'm just not understanding it. And we talked before about instructions in video games, instructions in gaming
games,
and it's just. And sometimes you get it, and sometimes you don't, and it's through no fault of anybody, but just I just read this and it just wasn't clicking with me. And I'm a numbers guy, and I love my numbers. And that's how I want to do this. I'm a numbers guy. I love numbers, and so I've been talking to a couple of people on Facebook today, and they've been helping me out in the whole bit. And I just would ask a question, like they would say, well, the Bruins are 3.2 or whatever it was. I want to know how you got that 3.2. I'm not finding out that.
How do you get there? How do you solve the equation?
So if I can get there, then I can do the rest of them. And then they were like, yep, and then this, that, and the other thing. I'm like, so the more that they explained it, it started to make a lot of sense. I just, when I was talking to them, it says, after reading the instructions, I wouldn't have got that. And so to them, it made sense, and they got it to me. Just for whatever reason, how I was reading it, I just could not visualize what they were trying to explain. And so they explained it to me, and I'm about halfway through, and now I got it all kind of clicking now. In fact, I got a spreadsheet set up where I can just type in numbers off the standings, and it does a lot of the calculations for me.
Oh, nice.
Yeah. So it's a lot of it's just math, which I really, I enjoy. But it's just like, when they said, okay, and then you need to take the average, and that's your base. I'm like, how do you get the average? Where do you, I'm not understanding. There was a lot of this is based on average. I go, where do I get that average? I'm reading the instructions about this. I still not seeing, I have all the numbers. I have all the numbers I need. Which ones do I use to get the average? And then when they explained it to me, it's okay, I got it. Thank you. But I wouldn't have got that out of the thing there. So thank you to the guys that helped me plug my way through the rating things with the Hockey Blast. So hopefully I'll have some teams, rated pretty soon, and do it. I guess the first one's the hardest, and then after that, they all fall into place.
Rated PG, parental guidance suggested.
Yeah. So first, I just wanted to shout out to the guys who are helping me with that. Secondly, We asked up on Facebook there if we get some feedback we want to read. Just kind of chatting with you guys is what we're doing there. And we got a couple of emails to read too. And so I guess we'll just start jumping right in with this one. So
go right ahead.
Yeah, Bernard wrote in. He says, my collections of games is now so large, I have a hard time deciding which ones to play. How many Sims are too many? I would say
Yeah, Dave, how many are too many?
I would say the answer is unlimited. It's whatever you enjoy. I mean, we all do this. We all start a project, and then something else comes up. We start another project, and we start another one, or a new game comes up, or I want to try this. And, here I am in the mix learning Big Bep hockey that you got me for Christmas, which I really do like. But I had such a big Black Friday with Pine Tar and, In the Crease and a few other. I mean, I picked up so many things on Black Friday. Here I am now trying to rate Hockey Blast season. So, I mean, it's never enough. It's do what you enjoy. So yeah, there might be at some point, you want to, don't start something that, geez, I know I'll never finish this. So just do a one-off. That's what I do. Do a one-off, and you don't got to worry about it, or a playoff or something. But there's never too many, I guess.
There's no such thing as a perfect game.
No, no perfect game. It's not, it's not like you can't play something until you finish something. It's not like you can't have your dessert until you eat your vegetables. You can do whatever you want, but so yeah, Bernard, you have a big collection. I keep adding to my collection. I do. And I enjoy adding to my collection. I see Jeff writes in, thanks for all the hard work you guys do, and I really appreciate the different topics you bring up on the show. What are your favorite homemade or homebrew add-ons to your game? What is your favorite homebrew or add-ons?
Well, all the things that you see dolled up on any of my streams are technically homebrew or added on, because the game manufacturers or distributors can't distribute anything with a real logo or picture on it. They can do or any names. I mean, for, let's say, in football, it's Dallas. I'm the one that's got to type in cowboy. So there's great mods. I would say that Al Wilson's mods for when he was doing the mods for 2nd and 10 were my favorite because A, they installed automatically once you told it where to go, and B, it just gave that game so much life. You got real fields from 45 years, and uniforms and 3D stickers, helmets.
Yeah.
It just gave 2nd and 10, which needs some sort of animation to it, just gave it some life and gave it something there. So I would say I'm still using those mods.
Yeah.
So I would say Al Wilson's what he did for 2nd and 10. As far as seasons are concerned, somebody did, I believe, all the NCAA tournament teams in basketball from 68 to 2001. And I have those for Action PC, along with so many other things that you'll never be able to play. And the fact that I reached out to the person or thanked them online, and it turned out it was their 50th or 60th wedding anniversary or something like that. So, the amount of time it took for someone to do all that and to create schedules and just that would be my favorite home brew. And my mod would be anything from the 2nd and 10 mod site.
I would have to agree
Just
that
easy to use.
Dolling up the games or making them look nice with fields and colors on the PC, I agree with that. And also when I make my cards, when I print out team cards or regular
really
cards,
enjoy that.
Yeah, that's kind of a hobby all on its own, is making it look nice. And I printed out a whole bunch of Hockey Blast cards the other day, and I screwed up in Photoshop with the background, and I had a really light red background. And I went back and I redid them all because I wasn't happy with them, and now they look really nice. So yeah, for me, I guess adding things like that, like you, my favorite home rule thing would actually have to be everything to do with Apple Hockey. And I've taken so many pieces from other people's suggestions for Apple Hockey. Whether it's the Mike Berger penalties to suggestions on some other things on the Delphi forums, to even my own homebrew rules for Apple Hockey. So Apple Hockey by itself was fine, but frustrating. And now that I've applied all the different homebrew rules, I think it flows better, it's faster, and it's a very exciting game for me to play. So all the things that I did in Apple Hockey, I would say that would be my favorite homebrew.
Okay.
Let's see. Going to email, Sean wrote us in and said he stumbled on our podcast in May of 2021. And I still find it kind of interesting that we've been going since summer of 2019.
Yes.
And it's almost 2 years, and people are still discovering the show, which is great. You know what I mean?
Well, it's 2.5 years. It's almost 3.
Yeah, but what I'm saying is that when he found us in May of 2021, it was a couple months shy of our 2-year anniversary. Yep. So people are still finding the show, and they're going back. And we got a few of those. People are going back and listening to old episodes, and I think it's great. That the fan base is still growing, and the audience is still growing, and the whole bit, and the community's growing, and we're interacting more, which is great. And more people are writing in. And we talked about that in the last show, how we got a lot of feedback, and we really do. Yep. I would rather get the feedback than nothing, because when you get nothing, you wonder if anybody's listening. And so he had a question for us here. He says, dealing with ADHD, executive dysfunction, I found in my adult years that I'm capable of dozens of ideas, but the follow-through is lacking. This has led to more than a few sim games being downloaded with products in mind, only for the file to occupy hard drive space while my brain can't flip the switch to execution. Have you ever dealt with this in the past? Is it something you help get past that barrier into actually playing the idea? And I think that's something we all run into. We do. We always have these great ideas. It's like, I'm going to do this. I'm going to replay all the Super Bowls using this game.
We talked about this, yeah.
And it's just, so I just said, we're always starting new projects. From time to time, though, I do make it a point to finish a project. I really do. Because it gives me a sense of accomplishment when I finish something. And even like the other day, I pulled out the 6970 hockey in Shootout EZ, and I played the whole thing. And I did it in a setting, and it was like an hour and a half or whatever it was. And so I finished the project. Even though I kind of started it the same day, I finished it. And so for me, I got a million projects going on like everybody else. But I do, at some point, do try to sit down and finish something. Because if there's just a sense of accomplishment when you finish a project. There is with me.
I know for me, it's more about the journey instead of the destination. I mean, some things you think are going to be great, and you get those first couple things out, and then you go, whether you don't like the engine or it doesn't click, and you go on to a place like the Delphi boards or read our stuff on Facebook or whatever, and you see that people finish. I would venture to guess that maybe 1 in 5 projects get finished.
I think there's some disciplined people that sit down.
There are some that really sit there and know what they're doing, and they love the game.
It's one game. I'm going to play this. This is my game. This is my sport. This is my season. This is my project, and that's what they do. And they play that exclusively and finish that. Myself, I'm a buffet type of guy. When I go to the buffet, I like to pick at all the different things at the buffet, and it's the same with my games. As I have so many games that I love to play, and I could list off 20 of them right now. I can't play them all at the same time, and it's whatever I get the itch for. I get the itch for shootout hockey. I play shootout. I get the itch, for now I'm in a hockey blast itch. I want to create a season for hockey blast. That's what I'm going to do. I look behind me at all the APA seasons, and I'm like, man, I want to play APA so bad. You can't play them all at the same time, but some people are disciplined. They will sit down and bang out a project.
Octopus surgery, by the way, is next week, so you'll be able to.
Oh, if I can get all those arms and play different games all at once, I would.
But in all seriousness, last night before I heard the Madden news, I was going to, okay, I'll play something. So I'm looking at the Strat season 77 season, and okay, I knew I finished my last series. So who are the Red Sox supposed to play? The Yankees at Yankee Stadium. No, I'm not in the mood for that. Who am I got next in my Islanders season? The Flyers. No, I'm not in the mood for that. You got because some things you want to be more focused on than the kick back and relax playing, and so, oh my God, you just. Enjoy the journey. Don't worry, and don't kick yourself if you don't finish.
But play what you're in the mood for, because I got the new Action PC baseball. As you know, I'm a casual baseball guy, and I started playing. What was I playing? 80. I'm playing 1980.
80. And
I've been enjoying the heck out of that. And I got it set up so I only bat, and I don't have to worry about defense and pitching because this is not my strong point. I just want to play the game, and I'm playing Action PC baseball, and I'm loving it. How I have it set up and how it's playing. Again, I'm playing.
Works for you.
It really works. It's my way, and that's the great thing about that game. Is you can set it up your way. I'm loving it, but then I'll pull out APA, and I'm like, oh, I missed APA so much. I want to play APA hockey right now, and I'll play a game of APA hockey, or even just a period. I'll pull it out, set up, and I'll play a period. Or I'll pull out a PC game. I mean, it's whatever I'm in the mood for, and as long as I'm enjoying it. Again, I'll be sitting there playing the Action PC baseball, going, man, I want to play APA hockey. And while I'm playing APA hockey, it's like, man, I want to play, solitaire pro football.
There are so many good games out there.
It's so much enjoyment, and I enjoy bouncing from game to game to game, and that's how I do it. And some other people want to stick with the one, and that's fine. For me, I like bouncing around from game to game to game. I do, and sometimes I finish a product, and sometimes I don't. And I'm okay either way because I'm enjoying every bit of what I'm playing, and that's the big key is enjoy.
Yep, that's the key thing.
Enjoy what you play, and don't let anybody tell you to do anything different.
It's not a chore.
Yeah. Mike has a good one here. This is one of my favorite things that I saw. Okay. As we end 2021, what is the most satisfying project that you have played and finished this year? I'm trying to think. Was it this year? I'm going to expand that question, okay? I'm going to expand that question, Ron, to not just this year. I'm going to expand that question to my most satisfying project that I've done, okay? That way, because I don't remember some of these products, what year I did
it.
I think my most satisfying one has to be when I did shootout hockey using the Homebrew 72 Cup Series with Russia and Canada.
Oh, yeah. Okay. I remember that.
I played all 8 games. Now, unfortunately, I couldn't stream any of it because it's not a sanctioned shootout hockey season or team. These are homebrew set of teams for the 72. Oh boy, what's the name of that cup? The Canada Russia Cup. I forget the name of it now. I should know it. I play Summit Series. Thank you very much. When I played that in so many different games, but when I did the shootout hockey one, you were actually streaming baseball or football at the time, and I was chiming in my scores, and you were saying, now let's go to Russia for an update on the hockey scores. That was my most satisfying product I've ever finished. It was just
that was the one that Canada choked the bit in the third period of Game 8.
Yep, it was just how that whole thing played out. The emotions went back and forth. Esposito got a 5-minute major in one of the games and then come out and scored an immediate goal. I mean, things like that, I don't know how, that just was a perfect replay. I think the Russians actually won it. It was either tied or the Russians won it by half a game. And it just
the Russians just
beat them up in Russia.
Put a salvo into Canada in the third period of Game 8 and pulled that series out.
Yeah, they destroyed them in Game 8. That's what it was. But that was just so exciting, so fun. I enjoyed that. I did a whole video on it too, as like recapping it, because again, I couldn't show the cards off. That probably for me, the one product that I finished that I had the most enjoyment in, and it was a fairly quick project. It was 8 games of shootout hockey. That's the one that sticks out to me as my favorite project.
I think the first season I ever finished did 162 for the 05 Mets and the 05 Red Sox. I think it was 05. The year that the Mets lost when Carlos Beltran, it was 05 or 06, when Beltran looked at strike 3 against St. Louis. I think it was 06. It was 06. Pedro Martinez was with the Mets, and I got the Mets to the World Series. We lost to the Blue Jays. Just satisfying because I was able to finish it. When you take on that first long project and you finish it. Now, I've done, this is the start of the 4th Action PC Baseball season replay with 85, and we've done some football, and I've done, hockey one offline. But that first one, knowing you got it finished, and knowing you changed history, and you look back and went, that was a lot of fun. And it makes it easier to do again because you know how long it takes and what's good about it and what's bad about it. And so I think just getting that first whatever that long project is for you, done and out of the way. Mm-hmm. For me was that, and that was the Mets getting beat by the Blue Jays in the World Series, and keeping Pedro Martinez around a little bit longer and being relevant, because he was pretty much done by the time he left the Red Sox, and he made a pretty good start in the 2009 World Series with the Phillies against the Yankees. But you can't see it. But on the other side, the wall that you can see is the ABC Sports banner, and the other one is a Pedro Martinez poster. So I've always been pretty fond of him. So the first long-term project I finished.
Oh, good. That was a good question there, Mike. Let's see. David emails us, and says, Dave and Ron, thank you both for all the great videos, games, and discussions provide us on your channels. Before I purchase a game of any type, I cross-reference your channels to see what you have to say about it. Thank you so much. Again, for me personally, it's like I had a lot of people that did that on YouTube that helped me learn games and gave their opinions. And so this is a way of me giving back. And a lot of times it's just my own personal opinion and personal preference. And so, again, you take that with a grain of salt. But thanks for the kind words. And, I like to show a game off, and then you can make your own decision. And And sometimes I'll say, this is what I like about it, this is what I don't like about it. But what I like and what I don't like could be completely different than anybody else.
I was asked to do a review of the new Action PC Baseball 2022, and I don't really like doing reviews because I showed off what I use in the game, and you can tell pretty much from how my energy level is towards the middle of a replay what I think of said game. But as you said, what I might like or don't like shouldn't really influence on what you like or don't like, or what features I use or don't use should influence on because everyone plays these games differently. Not everyone goes as played with certain things and all that. So I just like with you, you try to show it off. You try to let people make up their own mind and how they feel about it. I know with you, especially with the Play.com games, you looked at them and went, yeah, until you played them.
Yeah.
And you went, oh.
And I try to say that too. Yeah, when I do a video for a play game, I try to make that clear that the videos don't do the play games any justice. They're one of the rare exceptions that you have to play it. You know, and even St. Patrick in the Sports Sim magazine was talking about that too, and he said that he couldn't understand when I was saying that. He goes, I watched Dave Gardner, and Dave was talking about, you know, how the play games, the videos don't do it justice, and he couldn't understand that. And then when he finally got a play game in his hands, he says, oh, now I know what he means. It's just a weird thing. It's one of those things that once you start playing it, it's just so much fun. And you can't portray that in a video the way you can. Some things you can. Play games you can't show.
The other aha moment for you, what came from this year, is when you pulled out Action or APBA Hockey, because you watched a few videos on it and you were indifferent, I think is probably the best word to use for how you felt about the game. You couldn't quite put two and two together, and then you did something that I will now give for advice anytime someone asks about a new game in the sport. You picked a season that you knew them as players and not just as stats. Mm-hmm. And so you did 90-91, right?
Yeah.
Bruins and Kings? Is that what you played?
No, I think I did Kings Blues. Brett Hull, Adam Oates on one side, Wayne Gretzky on the other side.
And it just popped for you.
Yep.
And there wasn't anything in the video that could make it just happened.
I think sometimes you have to be ready for a game too.
Yeah, absolutely.
Because when someone sent me the older APBA Hockey, and it was a smaller chart and a couple of teams, and I got it to flow a little bit. I got it moving. It wasn't like I couldn't get it, but I was just like, whatever. At the time when he sent it to me, I was bouncing back and forth between a ton of games, and it was like, oh, this game's fun. This game's fun. APBA Hockey, that was I don't want to say a big learning curve, but there was just a lot of time involved in understanding that game.
It's very different because it's all dice driven. There's no fast action.
At the time, I wasn't used to looking at numbers and looking at a chart. That's not what I was into at the time. When I revisited again, I think I was more open and more ready to accept a game like that. So at the time, when I tried it back in 2020, I think it was just okay. I'll come back to it at some point. Right. But when I picked it up and I ordered the brand new game, like I said, the season that I knew, and I sat down and play it, and that it did. Then it worked for me. So I guess sometimes you might have to be ready for a game too, because we've done shows on second chances, and there's so many games I've gone back to that I really, really like right now that at the time I did not like.
Strat football, I guess, was that way for me. I don't play it all that much. But I was really surprised. It was one of those ones that, okay, it's the only strat game I didn't own, and I'm not that huge of a football fan, and the entry curve for strat is not cheap. And so I don't know what you did a video or Al did a video or someone did a video. And I went, okay, I'll try it. And I liked it. I'm not sure I would do a season-long streaming project of it, but it's like, whoa! It had some depth. You could see how the dice worked. Mm-hmm. It moved around in your head, so you'd see the dice roll and read the card and watch the play out on the electric football chalkboard. It's like, okay, yeah, I get it. And again, watching a video or listening to someone review that. Because look, the Stratomatic is the same as being half pregnant. You either love the games or you hate them. There is no in between.
I have the football, the hockey, and the basketball, and I think the football is the best of the three.
I would agree with that. Although I play a heck of a lot of the hockey.
Oh, I have too, and I still think the football is to me personally, I like the football better. I like how it's laid out. I like the stat package. I like the reports. I think the hockey one, it needs to be updated to look like the football. You know, you get the DOS matrix printout. You get the stats, but it's 1991 at best. And the football one, it seems a little bit more updated, more modern with some of the things that you look at. At least that's my opinion.
Stat package in basketball, I think, is the best. It's amazing because I haven't found. I'm not a real fan of either interface, the old or the new. But the stat package is, oh, okay, yeah, I get it. Anyway, so that's how I would answer it. And so I like to give people first looks, and I'm always thinking in my head about, how to show off these games or how I play them. But as far as in the unboxing videos, how I feel about it, whether I'm saying it or not. And again, I mean, when you deal with the 22nd or 23rd or 25th edition of a game, how different is it going to be? If you didn't like the last one, then what makes you think you're going to, so anyway, but yeah, it's hard to convey in a video, but
we do, and we like that. That's our way of giving back, because like I said, there's a lot of people that came before us that did that, and we appreciate that. And and I encourage people to do their own, even if it's a game that's been on a long time. Do your own unboxing, do your own first look video, do your own review of the game, because there's gonna be something that I say that resonates with you. There's something that Ron says. Everyone does a different review. Everyone comes in from a different angle. Everyone has different likes and dislikes. So you get to really, the more you absorb, the more rounded you're going to have as far as a view goes on a certain game. And let me tell you, there's been times I've watched a video on a game like, oh nope, not for me. Don't want nothing to do with that. And then I'll watch somebody else's videos like, well, wait a sec here. This is a little different than the other guy. He's,
everybody makes the soup a little bit different.
Yeah. So yeah, but we appreciate that. Thank you so much. Getting back to things. Ronnie writes in. He says, I have a very addictive personality. I do too. Even though I have many games, I find myself really focusing on one game for a period of time and totally ignoring the others. Do you ever get in that one-track mind mode?
I think for me, if you get really hooked into a replay of some sort, that you really just want to go and continue it. I think that you forget others, or you're trying to learn a game. I know that the Formula One game I bought, which I love, but it's all hand done and trying to figure out what the best way to do a project. Blah 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 blah. I spent 2 or 3 nights just trying to read through and just only focusing on that in the middle of my football replay. I'm like, okay, let's go back to reality here, and I go back to the season that I'm doing. So yes, I think we've all done that to an extent, just because there's something about it like, I'm not sure I either understand 100% of this, but I want to, or, oh my God, I've had this incredible week of playing this game and I wanted to continue.
Yeah. For me, going back to the addictive personality thing, I do have that. And in one word, I can sum it up: Skyrim. Back in 2011, when Skyrim came out in November, I was playing video games back then. I played nothing but Skyrim for 4 months. I finished the game many times. I did everything I could in the game. I got a perfect score on it, and I wouldn't play anything else. And that was it. I was addicted to that game, and I just didn't want to play anything else. And the same with another game called Left 4 Dead. I played that for months and nothing else because I just got so much enjoyment out of it. And the same with some of the cards and dice and some of the PC sports sim games here. When I get into my my shootout mode, I played nothing but shootout for a while. And then the same with Apple Hockey. I went on an Apple Hockey kick, and I go on a kick. I get into these games and I just enjoy it so much, and that's all I want to play. And then at some point that feeling in that moment wears out and you want to try something else, or a new project comes up, or a new game you want to try. But there's been times when I've done nothing but one game for a long time, and I don't feel bad about it at all, because if I'm enjoying myself, I don't care what game I'm playing. I'm just going to play this one game.
My wife will every once in a while say to me, "Mana Surge." I'm like, oh.
No, you're still playing Gems, yeah.
I still play Gems, yeah.
Pete writes in. This is a long one here, but this is a good one I want to acknowledge, Pete. Ron and Dave, I have been a loyal listener of your podcast since day one. Wow, Pete's been around a long time. Yeah, since
you get a cookie.
Yeah, since what was that, July of 2019 or August of 2019. Yeah. Thank you so much. And they have been a wonderful companion while I have mowed the lawn, conducted my daily walks around the neighborhood or at the gym, or while driving a car on a long trips or running local errands. And that's when I listen to my podcast too, when I'm kind of putzing around. That's how I listen to them too, by the way, Pete. Thank you for the wonderful work you have done and your respective and collective contributions to the hobby and the gaming community. I was motivated to write you tonight as I just listened to your most recent podcast where you discussed at length second season football with Kevin Burkhardt. I thought it was terrific. In my opinion, I think your podcasts are the best when there's an equal mix of the two of you discussing a particular topic along with interviewing game designers and adding in, as you did today, interviews with various gamers who have an extensive background / knowledge with a particular game. How did they get started with Game X? What is the appeal of the game to them, et cetera, et cetera. You asked many of the questions that I was curious about, and Kevin obviously knew this featured game inside and out. Great job. Please continue to feature many more game designers and return visits of some, as well as experienced and knowledgeable gamers. After these interviews, I'm always inspired to either take the game out and play it, often after a long absence, or if I don't own the game, possibly consider adding it to my collection. Thanks, guys, for all you do for the sports gaming community. Pete. And it's funny that he wrote that because I get back to him and said, Pete, that's exactly what we were going for in the show. When we first started the show, we listed out what we wanted to do. We wanted to talk about things amongst ourselves. We wanted to have game designers on, and we wanted to have people who just played the game in the community on. And we hit all those topics, and we hit all the buttons that we wanted to do, and it was great that that people pick up on that, because that's what we try to do. It's not just us sitting here banging out a show every week. We have other people on. Sometimes they're prominent people, and game designers, and other times they're regular people like us that just play the game, and that's what it is. This is a community show. And that's what we went for.
Let's face it. We've talked about this before. There's no Hasbro. There's no Mattel. There's no Parker Brothers. Everyone, even the bigger fish in this pond, is still kind of a small fish, and everyone is mostly approachable, too. Kevin was wonderful, and you could just tell of his love and care of the game is that, and a lot of the game designers that we've had on too. And trust me, we've had some niche people on that, but yeah, no, we've gotten a lot out of those.
Yeah, and he hit it all. I mean, that's basically the description of the podcast is what he wrote in, and so I'm glad that he's enjoying that and picked up on that. Let's see, going here. Gary writes in on Facebook. A new listener, love the show. I found the topics to be unique yet universal. Unique because other gaming podcasts don't often address them, but universal in that many of us deal with injury, frustration, pre-project research, etc. And yeah, and that's what it is. We're a couple of gamers, and we talk about the pitfalls that we run into, and the frustrations that we run into, and and frustrations that we see from other people in the gaming community, whether they post on Facebook, Delphi, or YouTube, and yeah, I mean, we're in the same boat. We're playing all the same games as you guys, and we run into the same issues, and we like to talk about those issues and talk them out and try to find solutions. If there's a problem, we try to find a solution and share that solution, or if we have a problem, maybe you can give us a solution to our problems.
That's what we're here for. Yeah, absolutely.
Let me see here. What else we got here? Let's see.
The immortal words of Craig Ferguson. CBS cares.
Rick writes in, a great podcast. I feel like I'm listening to friends I grew up with. And that's what that's another thing. That's what we do. We're just chatting here and just trying to, like we're all in the same room, just kind of sitting around watching the game. That's what we like to do. Let me see. Here's another good one here. Bobby writes in. We had talked about this offline a little bit.
Okay.
Maybe do a little behind the curtain and tell us some of the fun and not so fun things that have happened since you started the podcast.
For 1995, we'll tell you. I mean,
there hasn't been a lot of bad.
No, there hasn't been a lot of bad. Being able, talking to Dave Cook was big. I think just watching the show grow, I think has been very big. I mean, the Facebook group is now pushing 900.
Holy cow! Wow, I remember we hit 200. We were all excited.
Yeah, we were all excited about that. What? I mean, you're not getting any dirt from us if that's what you're asking for.
Yeah, the only dirt we might give is there's been times where we've started a show and one of us just was in a mood.
Yep.
And it's just one of us, and the other one could tell, and it's just like, all right, what's going on today? And it's like, this or that, family issues, or just not feeling good, or didn't sleep well.
I know there was one show that we redid because it just...
Yeah, we did one whole complete show. We did the whole show. We get done, and it's like, that sucked.
Yep.
And it never saw the light of day. So we redid it the next day, and it's not easy redoing an entire show because you're so mad that you did a bad show, and then you're kind of forcing the second one, but I think it come out better.
No, I thought we did the second was better. Sometimes we don't hit the record button when we start the show.
Yeah, we did that today. We got
that happened was
we got 5 minutes in, and I'm spacing out today, and I didn't hit the record button. But
no, I think it's been an experience for us, and I'm not sure that when we started we thought it would be a weekly show. And with the exception of, I mean, we're 2.5 years into it. We've done 117 shows. And so there's always something there. I'm not sure how many topics you thought we would actually get to. And we'll eventually have guests on the second time and stuff like that. But we really haven't repeated a topic.
I think we've...
outside of the Black Friday, and that changes every year anyway.
We've talked about things again, I think in more detail, because we'll talk about a general thing, and then if we talk about it again, we get into the more nitty gritty with it. So we've repeated, because again, there's only so many things you can talk about, and we 117 of these. At some point, you do repeat, and you do
right.
And we revisit things a lot too. So maybe our opinions change on things, or maybe we find something that whatever. So but yeah, I mean, we had some technical difficulties. In the past, like I say, forgetting to hit the record button, or we've had a guest on that was, trying to use his cell phone, and we had to tell him no. that was embarrassing for us to say we can't do this, so we had to record again at a later date when they get on a computer. But it just wasn't working out. We couldn't hear him; he couldn't hear us. So we've had a couple of those things happen. But yeah, I mean, and like Ron said, the growth of the show, we started off, didn't know if anybody would listen. And here we are, we're pretty much doing weekly. And let me tell you, when we get the feedback, like we're reading all the feedback today, that's kind of fuel for the fire. It really is.
Absolutely.
Because when we go 2 or 3 weeks, we don't hear anything from anybody on anything. We get up in the morning, it's like, you want to do a show? I don't know, let's do one this weekend. But when we get a lot of feedback, that's the fuel for us to say, hey, people are listening. They want to hear more. Let's sit down and let's record the show here. And that gives us, like today, we were all jazzed up for this because we got a ton of feedback here, and that's the stuff that keeps you going. Again, I don't know about you, but I don't go and listen to every show I do just for my own enjoyment. I want other people to enjoy it. If they enjoy it, they fuel me to do more. And it's the same with the YouTube stuff. If people are enjoying the stuff we do and they're getting some value out of it, then we want to keep it going. So, but as far as behind the scenes stuff, yeah, I mean, there's been a couple times we've had to redo shows. We've had some technical issues. Things like
I tried using Skype a couple times. That just was horrible.
Yeah, Skype was really bad in the beginning, so that's why we're using this other paid service, StreamYard, that I use. It's a better quality, I think. And that's the other thing. We wanted a quality show, so we each bought some nice equipment to make it sound good. I spend a lot of time editing the show to weed out some of the dog barks and the cat meows and stuff like that, so it seems pretty seamless. So there's a lot of work that goes into producing here. It really does. But yeah, there's been a couple of times that we just didn't want to record. And sometimes we did, and sometimes we didn't.
Yeah.
And that's about the worst of it. I mean, the best of it has been meeting all the people and talking to all the people and talking to everybody that listens and comments. And that's been the thrill of it for me, is meeting all these people, whether we have them on the show, or whether we just chat on social media. It's been fun. And plus getting help for the stuff that I needed help for, and helping other people has been kind of fun too. Not that we're experts in anything, but if someone asks a question, I try to answer it. And if I can't, I say that I don't know the answer to that. So anyway, but I thought that was a good one.
Yeah.
Kind of, behind the curtain, so to speak. Let's see here. Dan writes in. He says, I'm also a new listener in the last year. I've gone back and listened to many of your shows. One thing that I get out of them is learning about many different PC and dice games there are out there. I did not realize or know how many different games there are until listening to your show and watching some of the YouTube videos. Dan, there are a ton of them. It's really, when I first started playing, I didn't think there'd be this many. Here I am. I probably got 100 cards and dice games and PC games. Yeah. Yeah. If I should list them all one time. Every single game I got and played, I'd be probably near 100, I would imagine.
And Gloucester Foster has a 2-hour delay. So, yeah, it'd be like that. It'd be like reading the old school club.
Yeah, exactly, yeah. I have since picked up PC Replay Baseball and love the tabletop aspect of the PC game. Yep, that's a good one to play for that. Like Strat, it gives you a feeling you are playing on your own table. I've also picked up Action PC Baseball and Hockey as well as Strat Hockey to go along with my Diamond Mind and APA BBW PC Baseball games. As I don't have the time to play cards and dice with a 10-year-old playing A1 hockey, coaching that team and working, good for you. Your shows give me more choices to choose from. I love the variety and trying out new games. Thank you for your time and dedication to these games. And yeah, I find myself too, Dan, sometimes I have time and I pull out the cards and dice and I play. And other times I don't have the time and I pull out a PC game. So yeah. So for me, it's been the same way. And
yeah, I find myself playing more of the card and dice games. Not sure why. I think that, as part of doing the show, you play a lot more than you normally would, and of all sorts of different things. And I think you just find you find something that you can be comfortable in, and time, of course, is a big issue. But you want to get the most bang for your time. It's not necessarily bang for your buck, although there's some great games that do that. But bang for your time. If you only got an hour to do whatever it is that you want to do, how are you going to spend that hour? Do you want the computer to be doing the stuff in the background for you? Do you want to get lost in the total immersion of whatever it is that you're trying to do? And there's so many different options. And there are new games that come out all the time. As more and more stats come out. I mean, these are all math games. How they're presented is very different, but it's all the same. And so, yeah, how do you get the most bang for your buck? And in this case, being the time that you spend for an enjoyment.
Yep, that's a good point there. So let's see. I got one more here. This guy snuck it in at the end.
Okay.
Jimmy writes in, Dave, at the tail end of your recent podcast, you made the comment that you probably spend way too much time doing graphics and other secondary stuff instead of actually playing the game. Hey, you are not alone. I enjoy doing graphics and making charts, spreadsheets, and other stuff as much as I like playing the game. I'm all about creating an environment that I enjoy playing in. I like building my own helpers to smooth the games out to my liking. So to me, that's all part of the hobby. And that's a good point, Jimmy. I still think being a perfectionist, I still think I spend too much time on my stuff.
But you enjoy that. That's gaming time for you.
A lot of it's my OCD. It's I'll sit down like the other day and I printed out some cards and I had to cut out, and I gotta do the whole season. I gotta print out so I spend hours in Photoshop getting it ready, making it look nice, and then hours cutting it up, and that's hours of gameplay that I'm not getting in because.
And then I go and buy you a new game. Merry Christmas.
Then you buy me a new game and I gotta do it all over again. Yeah. So part of it's that I can't just print a couple of teams. Maybe when I start a game, I'll print a couple of teams to try it out. But if I like the game, there's a part in even like with the PC games. When you buy the seasons, there's something in my head, wrong or right, I don't know what it is, but I don't ever want
right for you.
I don't ever want to sit here and say something spurs like a game for me, and it's like Madden, let's say. Oh, I want to play that Raiders Patriots game, but you know something? I don't have that season, or I don't have those teams printed out. That's why I have to have all those seasons, and that's why I have to print out and have those cards ready to go, even though of all the cards I have in my house right now, I probably only played 5 or 10% of those teams. But, and yes, I've fought anxiety. Okay, I'll say that on the show. I have anxiety pills, and I don't take them anymore. But knowing that I have those anxiety pills in my shelf is almost as good as taking one, because if I didn't have one, I would go into double anxiety. You know what I mean? So I've learned to control that anxiety many different ways, but I still tell the doctor that I have my anxiety pills and I know they're there. And
just in case.
And that quells my anxiety knowing they're there. If they're not there, my anxiety goes up. And that's kind of the same with the games that we play and the preparation and everything here. I like my stuff to look nice. I like to have my teams printed so I can play them when I want to, and I don't want to ever say, oh, I don't have that team, or I don't have that season.
Right.
Now, right or wrong, that's how my brain functions. And so that's why I spend a lot of time printing out cards and printing out seasons, printing out helpers, printing out charts, or whatever I do until it's complete. And there is enjoyment in that. Don't get me wrong. Is I'll sit up in Studio C with my iPad and I'll watch you guys on YouTube playing your games, or I'll, listen to the radio and I'll do my cutting and my designing and my corner punching, whatever it is. And it is somewhat enjoying. But I always sit there wondering, am I spending too much time on this? Am I spending too much time waxing the car and not driving the car?
Yes, but that's what you enjoy. Now, it's interesting because, if a game has seasons available, I'm bad with that. It's a good thing strat seasons are expensive, because I would have done that a while ago, too. So because Dave over at Action PC was the first really to sit there and offer seasons in bulk. And the Christmas sales, like, oh, well, I can get 50 seasons for $100. Mm. Yeah, it's $2 a season. And but as far, I'll doll up the Action PC stuff, because that's the stuff that's going to be streamed. And part of that for the computer is you want the right visuals. Mm-hmm. You want it's important for me that the right team plays in the right ballpark and the logos kind of match and the pictures are kind of there. And because it's a public show for some of it, you make sure that you have people prefer to see the right players in the right uniform. So Tom Seaver, if you're doing a season with the White Sox, you shouldn't be showing him in the Reds uniform. Some people don't care and some people do. That's the part to get easy. But when I'm doing the strat stuff, which I do for my own and talk about on the show and maybe occasionally do a video on, there isn't a mod there. I am playing pure cards and dice, and I want that time to build my own immersion. I don't need the help of a logo. I don't do rings for those. I don't have any pictures. It's me and the cards. Mm-hmm. Although it's, and I just, sometimes that's good and sometimes it's not, because then you just let your imagination go with you. You don't need that help. And it's just pure game time. But in others, it depends on setup. I'm going to mention somebody's full name here. And he does, you think that you spent a lot of time doing it. My buddy Brent DeHart, he's Mr. Wrestling 2 on, or the second on YouTube. He goes through and makes these elaborate Excel helpers and then sound files. So for his football games, he literally has Summerall and Madden announcing them. For boxing, he's got, I don't know where he found all these. He might have made them, of Howard Cosell doing that. And for him, that's his immersion. He plays a lot, but that's just, it's kind of like we've talked about model trains before on the show. You could just have the track and pretend that you're there at the station to get water for your steam engine, or you can make sure that tree is accurately placed by the swing so the kid, nothing wrong with that. It depends on what your level of immersion is. And so, no, if your thing is making sure that the corners are rounded and the tables are sanded and, that the F5H engine has the right horn, don't use that as a knock. It's what you want. It's part of the entire experience.
Yeah. When I sit down and play, I like to have cards. If they're colored, the colors of the teams, maybe I throw a logo on. If they're stock cards from the company, at minimum, I'll print out a logo on some card stock and put it on the table so I can see that the team logo, or if it's baseball, a baseball helmet. I get the little football helmets I use. I need some kind of visual reference on the table when I play. For the PC games, yeah, you can usually jazz them up a little bit with end zones and football helmets or baseball helmets or uniforms or whatever. The hockey, I go full bore. The other ones I just do a little bit, but you do have to see the field. You got to see some kind of a logo or at least some kind of team color there. That kind of gives me the immersion, because when I play these things, in my head, I'm hearing the announcers do it,
Right.
Like when I play the inside blitz and I got my end zone set up for each team and I got my logos for each team, and they do a good job with the colors in the inside blitz. And I'm playing the football game. It's like, hand off Emmitt Smith, and I can hear somewhere on hand off Emmitt Smith, right side, 2 yards, 2nd and 8 Cowboys. And I hear that in my head when I play the game. So part of it is me kind of creating the drama and the theater in my head, but I also have that visual stimulation.
It kind of goes both ways with that, doesn't it?
And it is. And
one leads to the other.
And so, so getting back to what Jimmy was saying there is I was talking to you last night, and I had printed out the international greats for Hockey Blast. It was 6 teams, and I printed them out, and I screwed up in the Photoshop. And maybe I've said this earlier in the show. Somehow when I put the background, it wasn't a solid white. I didn't drag it all the way to the white, and it was a little bit of red, and everything come out with like a light pink background. And it
looked, when you showed me, like a greasy pizza box.
Yeah.
How it kind of smears there means it's a good pizza, but
yeah.
But yes.
And I was just like, it's and I don't even know how much of these teams I'll play, but I sat for hours and I put the flags on these cards and I made them look good, and the background was messed up on all of them. And it was only 10 sheets of paper, or 10 card stocks. So I said, something? I threw them away. And I went back downstairs, and luckily I saved the files, and I just put in a new white background so it was all nice and bright, and I reprinted them, and that's when I was talking to you when I was cutting them, and I'm like, do you realize that this is the second time I've done this here, and I don't have any idea how many times I'll play these teams, but I wanted them to look nice, and I couldn't rest knowing that I looked at them and everybody had a red background, and it was noticeable to me. And so I went back and I redid it all. So I spent a lot of time getting it right and making it look good. Now, Tony responded to Jimmy's post and says, I enjoy that aspect more than playing, to be honest. I'm not ashamed to say it either. So he commented saying that he likes to put in all that time. And then Jen responds to him, I don't think you're alone or even close to alone on the number of people who enjoy playing with the games as much as playing the games. We have a great time tinkering. And that's a good word to use, is tinkering, is that, because again, you could stop at any time. But do you want to add something? Do you want to make it look good? Those inside the crease cards and even the payoff pitch cards, when I bought the corner rounder and I rounded the corners to make them look like an apricot, oh my gosh, they look so much better than just a rectangle. They really, and there's nothing wrong with the stock payoff pitch cards by any means, but the ones that I did, I think they look great with the rounded corners, and the same with inside the crease. And I'm tempted to do that with the Hockey Blast cards. I don't know if I'm going to.
Those are tiny, though.
Yeah, but I tried them out last night. I did the small corner rounder, and they didn't look bad. I said, so I'm up in the air on what I want to do, because those are so small. Sometimes the corners help to pick up, so they were just going back and forth, talking about that right there. And other people chimed in and said the same thing, yes, it's, that is that. So, yes, I spend too much time on it. I do enjoy it, and sometimes.
But if you enjoy it, then you don't spend too much time on it.
No, you're right. You're right. But I mean, but ultimately, though, like I say, you want to drive the car around and sitting there waxing it and cleaning it, or the people that have the cars in the garage and they're constantly tinkering with the vehicles. It's like, do you ever drive this thing? You just work on it. You know what I mean? I guess half the fun is working on it, knowing that it's going to run really nice.
You get to know it. You get to know it, and some of us do it by playing it, and others like, oh, I forgot it was there.
Again, but I think part of it's just my personality, my OCD, that I want things done and done to completion, and I want them done right. So I will have to print all the teams, and all the players, and cut them all out, and have the whole season ready to go for me. Because if there's a couple teams I don't print, I know it's going to drive me nuts. Because if I want to play them, they're not available, even though I have thousands of other teams in other games to play. It's a me thing.
It matters, and I wouldn't feel bad about that. It matters.
Mm-hmm.
So
anyway, so that is that. Thanks for all the feedback on there. Hopefully, enjoyed some of that conversation that we had there, and great suggestions. And keep them coming. There's a lot of people that suggested guests for the show and topics for the show, and we read them all. And I try to get back to everybody. Sometimes though, like I said, work gets crazy, your family gets crazy, your holidays get crazy, and I don't always get back to everybody. We do read everything that comes in for suggestions on the show, and we have a whole list of things that we've written down for you guys that we want to talk about as well.
Absolutely.
Anyway, any final thoughts, Ron, before we wrap up today's show and wrap up 2021, which I guess would be technically our third year of the show? I mean, 2019, 2020, 2021. I mean, I know 19, half a year.
Our fourth year starts next week.
Yeah, our fourth calendar year, not our
fourth calendar year.
I guess, yeah.
Okay. Be pedantic.
Yeah. I guess the only thing I would say is that I think I'm kind of growing and maturing as a cards and dice and PC sim gamer, because I'm now opened up to a lot more games than I wasn't when I started. I was a little bit more closed-minded about things, and now I'm a little bit more open-minded, willing to try new games out, willing to take some time learning games. I'm still a very impatient person, but I found that I've gone back to a lot of games are a handful of games that I didn't like at first, and giving them a second chance, maybe a fresh set of eyes, good night's sleep, and I'm able to look at these games in a different light, and a lot of them I'm enjoying now. Not all of them. There's still some that I went back to and it's like, I just can't do this. Not right now.
No, and that's understandable. I mean, a pig is still a pig, whether it's got lipstick on it or not.
But there's other games that I've gone back, and I'm glad I did, and I'm really, really enjoying them, and making them my own, so to speak, and having a blast with them. Whether I'm playing them correctly or not, it kind of doesn't matter, because I'm not hurting anybody. It's my way of doing it, and I'm really, really, really enjoying them. So
yep. Absolutely.
So another good year of gaming underneath our belt. Hopefully 2022 will be better than the last 2 years for everybody as far as everything goes in the world. We hope that you had a good holiday, and you have a good New Year's. And who knows, maybe some people will be playing some games over the New Year's, Get snowed. It is kind of fun when you get snowed in and you can't go anywhere and you got to play a game. It is kind of fun. That is kind of fun. Yeah. Oh, of course, after you shovel and snow blow, then you're too tired to play.
I don't have to worry about that.
I come in sometimes. I'm just so dang tired. That's where the PC games come in great. Is sometimes you're just too tired. You're like, man, I want to play something, but if I tried to set up a cards and dice game, I'm going to be like falling asleep doing it. So I'm just going to kick up my feet and just play on the PC, and then that way there's no setup. So it's nice having the option of going right to PC. It really is.
Yep.
So
absolutely.
All right. So shall we fade this out?
Absolutely.
All right, by the numbers, this has been episode 117 of the Digital to Dice podcast, recording this on December 29th, 2021, as we wrap up 2021 here. Hopefully in style. We'll find out. Ways to get a hold of us, digitaltodice.com. That is the website. We put all of our shows over on Spreaker. You can listen to them there, or you can listen to them on my YouTube page as it goes immediately up to YouTube once we upload to Spreaker. See ways to get a hold of us. 978-751-DICE is the text line. 978-751-3423. I've been having some great conversations with some people on the Dice line as we chat about games and some of the things we're playing. And there was a couple people playing some hockey replays, and they've been giving me their updates. And I've been, of course, I like to root for the Bruins and the Rangers. I don't know why I like the Rangers. I do. I like the Rangers and the Sharks, but no one's playing the Sharks right now. Let's see, digitaltodice@yahoo.com. That is the email. And over on Facebook, facebook.com/groups/digital2dice. So that wraps up 2021, wraps up show 117. And next time we record, I guess I'll see you next year, right?
I'll see you next year.
That always
Bye-bye.
drove me nuts when people said that in school. It's like, see you next year. You know, when you get out of school.
Next week, for crying out
Yeah, I know. You got to see you in 3 days. See you next year. You know. But
see you next year.
oh, it is kind of fun. So anyway, all right. We'll catch everybody later. Bye bye.
Bye-bye.